Hey, what is up guys? We're going to be doing an updated Krawler deck profile here. I've been playing this particular build ever since Soul Fusion came out with the new one card support for Krawlers, and I think a lot of people just don't really bother talking about the new card, but it's really amazing. I haven't had to change the deck at all up until now, of course, because the ban list took away one particular card, so I had to do a bit of adjustments here, and I've been playing this deck for a few days now, and it's definitely been working pretty well for me. So without further ado, let's just get started. There's actually 42 cards in this deck, but there's nothing wrong with going a little bit over. So we have 3 Krawler Spine. Spine is just, again, one of the more important ones because it destroys monsters. We have Axon, which obviously destroys spells and traps. We're also playing 3 copies of Glial, which allows you to special summon more Krawlers, including Krawler Link monsters, so it's already really amazing there. And of course, we're playing only 2 Dendrites, but you know, it's more so because he has 1300 attack, and together with the other Krawler Link monsters that pretty much boost up his attack, it really helps you get down the numbers to finish off your opponent there. Krawler Receptor, some people play 3 of these, I play 2. I just don't really think we need that many of them because we have so many other cards that can do the worst, that can do a lot better than Receptor here. So for example, World Legacy Survivor, it's just a new card that helps you excavate them, so overall you don't really need Receptor anymore. 2 is more than enough for me. Also playing 2 copies of Ranveer. This card, you're gonna have a lot of Krawlers in a graveyard. Sometimes you just want to bring them back, and with Ranveer, it's not bad at all. Also, it's the second highest attack among all the regular Krawler monsters, so with 1100, again, it helps you meet the specific numbers that you need. The last monster we're playing is World Legacy World Armor. This is a Krawler support card. Not too many people actually play this card, but I do think it's pretty interesting to actually incorporate in this deck. Basically, if a monster is flip summoned, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if this card is normal or special summoned, you can add a World Legacy card from your deck to your hand, obviously that being the field spell and all the other World Legacy cards we pretty much have in our deck here. So yeah, it's not too bad of a card at all. With 2500 attack, it's pretty decent. So that's pretty much it for the monsters. Let's move on to spells. Alright, so moving on to spells, obviously we have World Legacy Survivor, just a great card to pretty much add a specific card, deck thin, and even excavate cards to the graveyard, so really amazing. 3 World Legacy in Shadow, again, just a really great card, it's a field spell, and no need to play Terraforming because you know what, this is easily just searchable anyway, and I think Terraforming's at 1, so it doesn't really matter. This card can easily be searched out through World Armor, so not too bad at all. We are playing 2 copies of Wormbait. Wormbait is just a really amazing card, allowing you to bring out 2 tokens that are also insects, which can be used to bring out some of the Krawler Link monsters as well, which is definitely really helpful here. We're playing 2 Called by the Grave. I do not like it when my opponent uses a hand trap against me and prevents me from doing anything. For example, the Krawler effects, if they're destroyed by your opponent's card effect actually, you can actually special summon 2 more Krawlers from your deck in face down defense position. But the problem is how many times has the opponent actually activated Ash on me. So I'm going to be playing Called by the Grave, 2 of them. I could play 3, but for now I'm thinking 2 actually works pretty well here. There's no need to go that far. We're also playing Monster Reborn. You could play Soul Charge, but again, Soul Charge has been banned, so quite unfortunate to see that go. Raigeki, not a bad card at all. Replaced it with Dark Hole, of course. And the last card we're playing is Scapegoat. Now that it's down to 1, we don't have as many options here. I used to play 3 copies of this in the deck, I think, and eventually Scapegoat went to 2, so I played 2, now it's at 1, and it's quite unfortunate there, but at least we still have it, so we still have enough resources to go into a lot of Link monsters, so I can't complain too much about that. But that's it for the spells, let's move on to traps. Alright, so for trap cards, we're playing 3 copies of World Legacy's Mind Meld. Mind Meld is pretty much just allowing you to change the effects of your opponent's monsters. It's just way too good to not play. any less than 3. So we're going to be playing Crusadia Krawler. With this, the new support from Soul Fusion here. I don't know if I actually did a profile including this card, but this card basically is special summon this as an effect monster, as an insect, of course, level 2, so that means it's a viable link target. It's still considered a trap card for us, and if this card is special summoned this way, to a zone a link monster points to, you can also add a World Legacy card from your deck to your hand. And as you can see, we've already gone over so many different World Legacy cards, so really great card there. I might even bump it up to 3, but for now I think 2 works really amazingly. World Legacy Pawns, I dropped this card down. I've seen some decks actually drop it down to 1 copy. I think that's a little bit too much to get rid of here. I still think it's a great card, and 2 copies is still good enough. Your opponent will destroy at least one of them, so it's good to have at least 1 backup, and I'm playing 2 here, so not too bad at all. Of course, this deck, although it can special summon more Krawlers, you have to keep in mind we're always on the defensive, and we're going to have to keep that up here because the opponent can easily just get through your monsters. Playing 2 copies of Storming Mirror Force, of course, as the defense for this deck. Of course, we got to play different cards as well, such as Quaking Mirror Force. This card completely just stops your opponent, and your opponent won't be able to do anything about it. Basically, as soon as you flip face down their monsters, they can't use them as link materials, they can't use them as synchro materials, they can't really get rid of it at all, and pretty much you just clogged up their board. So I still think Quaking Mirror Force is quite amazing. The only problem is it doesn't work on link monsters, unfortunately. And of course, to end things off, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Lost Wind. Although we have the power to negate with World Legacy's Mind Meld or changing their effects, Lost Wind still can negate stuff, and monster effects are just so prevalent in this particular format. I figure Lost Wind would actually do the trick here, and by playing 2 copies, we're technically playing 4 copies since it can come back from the graveyard as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the main deck. Let's move on to the extra deck. Alright, so moving on to the extra deck, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Krawler Quaylark. This card is one of the main cards I try to go into to actually finish off my opponent. If you have 6 Krawlers on the board, you pretty much win the game at that point. Also, Krawler Neurogos, another great card to play as well. These are the cards that you guys are just mostly familiar with already, so no point in me explaining all of them, but Synapsis, also another good card here as well. Of course, we're playing 2 copies of Mrs. Radiant. We have a lot of great rank 2 options here in Krawlers, and that's what makes it so amazing. We have a Proxy Dragon as well, just to further extend the board and everything like that, and it's also generic. We are playing Deco Talker because, you know, we do sometimes need a strong beat stick, and Deco Talker can actually add up with several kinds of numbers as well, so it's quite nice. Subterra Behemoth Fiendus, a card I don't come across too often, despite the fact that it actually uses 2 flip monsters, and that's our whole deck, but yeah, I don't know, it's not a card I've come up with that much. I might cut it out of the deck, but also playing Nightmare Cerberus here, and also a Nightmare Phoenix. You know, sometimes you have co-links, and you just want to have these cards as protection, so it's not bad at all. And of course, we are also playing a Summon Sorceress as well. Summon Sorceress is just great here. Let me just focus up a bit. Summon Sorceress, of course, you're playing all insects, and even some of your link monsters are insects, so you can definitely make things synergize here, and you can do pretty well. And of course, to end things off, we're playing a Yugioh Skeldred. This card is just really amazing, of course. It's possible to go into. It's something I rarely go into, but I still put it there as an option, and it can also boost up my own monsters as well. So it really adds up to a few attacks. But mostly this deck is meant to be a gimmicky deck. It's very interesting because this deck actually does surprisingly well against Altergeist. So if you guys are actually wondering and you want to take on Altergeist in this particular format, this deck is actually the answer to deal with Altergeist. Altergeist can only negate 1 card, but you're just getting so many different effects off the Krawlers that, you know, most of the Altergeist decks can't do anything about this. I've done playtesting, I've taken on some friends who also play Altergeist as well, and for all those testings, Krawlers have just come out in, you know, in victory here. So it's just a really odd deck that, although they aren't particularly a meta deck or anything, not even close actually, they are able to at least defeat one of the most meta decks out there, which is Altergeist. So if there's any tournaments coming out and you guys are actually wondering if you want to play Krawlers, which is a nice budget option as well, most of the deck is incredibly cheap, you can actually play this, and you'll know that against an Altergeist deck you'll have no problem at all. But that's pretty much it for this deck profile, so I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you next time.